Good evening. I call this meeting of the San Marcos City Council to order. It is February 7th of 2023. The time is 6:03 p.m. This is your Mayor, Jane Houston. Due to surgery that I had yesterday and my arm's in a sling and I can't wield the gavel, my Mayor Pro Tem, Mr. Mark Gleason, is going to handle the meeting this evening. He handled many meetings very well as the Chair of the Planning and Zoning Commission. He'll be able to handle it. Mr. Gleason, you're in charge.
Okay, let's call the roll.
Here.
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 Mayor Houston.
Here.
Ms. Garza.
Here.
Mr. Gonzalez and Mr. Mendoza.
Here.
Okay, we have a quorum present.
Okay, and then we have invocation tonight from Mr. Latham.
My name is Jeff Latham. I'm a pastor at Westover Baptist Church here in San Marcos. I graduated from Southwest Texas at the time. My grandmother babysat Lyndon Baines Johnson as well. So I'm just super honored to be here and been asked to pray. So thank you for having me. Let's pray. Gracious Heavenly Father, I thank you for this day. Lord, what a beautiful day it was. I just want to pray over the mayor, Lord, in her arm as well, that you'll heal it up for her. Lord, I just want to come to you and ask that you'll bless the meeting and bring just a calm and a peace while we're here, because this is our team, Lord, and I just pray that we'll let our yes be yes and our no be no, and anything in the middle is not from you, Lord. So I just pray that you'll continue to bless our awesome city, which I love. I love San Marcos, our high school, and all of our college students, Lord. I just pray that you'll be with them. So be with our words. Words are important. In the name of Christ, I pray over the meeting. Amen.
Amen. Okay, and then we'll do our pledges. I pledge allegiance to the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Okay, and we'll move on to our citizen comment period. The City Council welcomes written and verbal comments at regular meetings. Persons wishing to speak during the citizen comment portion of the meeting must have emailed citizencomment@sanmarcostx.gov prior to noon the day of the meeting. A call-in number and link were provided. Speakers may speak once during the citizen comment time period. If a citizen speaks during the citizen comment period on a public hearing topic, they may not speak again during the public hearing on that same topic. A timer will be displayed on the screen. After you state your name, you have 3 minutes to speak. When you begin speaking, you will be in the green on the timer. When you have 20 seconds, you will be in the yellow. When the timer turns red, your time to speak is up. The mayor and council will endeavor to ensure that the meetings are conducted in a courteous manner, in an atmosphere free of defamation, intimidation, personal affronts, profanity, and threats of violence. And I think we have about 7 or 8 people signed up to speak tonight. We'll start with Natalie Freeman.
Natalie Freeman. I'm a resident of Hays County. Anyone who knew Joshua Wright knew that he was a gentle soul. Josh loved his family, and he adored his daughter, Zarina. I attended church with Josh and his mom for several years. Every time I saw him, he was respectful. That's just who he was. He did not have a history of violence. On December 12th, 2022, about 71 days ago, Josh Wright was shot in the back numerous times by a corrections officer and killed. At the time, Josh was incarcerated for pending charges, unauthorized use of a motor vehicle, and awaiting trial. He did not have the money to post bail. Josh had a medical emergency that took place and was transported to Hays County, from Hays County Jail to the Seton Hospital in Kyle. His hands and feet were shackled. What we don't know is what happened next. Per an independent autopsy, Josh was shot several times in the back, his feet shackled, and killed. To add salt to the wound, the corrections officer who shot Josh in the back is still at work after 2 weeks of being off. How is this even possible? I grew up in San Marcos. I still live in Hays County. It's one of the fastest growing counties. The advertisements everywhere say they focus on the beauty, the tourist attractions. It's a place to live, a place to raise your family. True beauty isn't about outside appearance. It's about what's at the core, what's at the heart. A community is not how clean the river is, how nice the landscaping is, or the number of homes. True community is the people. If we're going to be a true community, then we have to do what's truly beautiful, and that's take care of those who many turn their backs on. We're tired of people pretending. If we're going to call Hays County a good community, a place that everyone wants to live, then we need to treat everyone right, whether you live in a $500,000 home or you reside in the county jail. It doesn't matter. You're a human being, and you are someone. You should be treated with dignity and with respect. There are too many people suffering right now in the county jail, and now someone has lost their life right here in your San Marvelous city. It's been 70 days. Why has the family of Joshua Wright not heard from anyone on the council? Why have they not received any condolences? Has the person who represents their mother's district reached out to her and offered their condolences? It seems as if the community has turned a deaf ear to the situation. When you do not acknowledge a person's hurt and pain, it hurts the soul. You have a constituent son who's been killed and who is suffering, and you sit there in those beautiful chairs and act like nothing has happened. My advice is to get up and show some compassion. To this day, Josh's mom does not know what happened to her son, and the least we can do is make sure that she sees the officer's body camera and the footage so that she can get the clarity, she can get the transparency, and the closure that her and her family deserves. We understand that you may not be responsible for the release of the video.
Your time is up, Ms. Freeman. Sorry. Next up, we have Bucky Couch.
Good evening. So my name is Bucky Couch. I'm at 2629 Summit Ridge here in San Marcos. Thank you for the opportunity to speak, and to Councilmember Scott and the mayor. Hope your recoveries are going well. Thanks for being up there. And thank you, Pastor, for being here. It's a good night to be here. I want to say a few words on a subject that to me is an optimistic and upbeat. Let me start off by saying the term selfless service. So last week I had the fortunate opportunity to be a part of two great events that I think speaks to one of the highest priorities you as elected officials and us as members of the San Marcos community should hold dear. First, I attended the annual awards ceremony put on by the San Marcos Police Department. I listened as 10 officers and 911 operators were honored for saving a life. In each example, the award recipient went out of their way, and in some cases in harm's way, to save a life. These are the real heroes in our midst. Also last week, I participated in the final group interview process for 6 young men who want to join the San Marcos Fire Department. This is my 4th time to participate as a community member along with fire department assistant chiefs, battalion commanders, and captains. I think I've been fortunate to be a part of the hiring process for about 20% of the firefighters we have on today. So why do I tell you these events? When one of the firefighter candidates was asked, why do you want to be in fire service? His simple yet profound answer was selfless service. That phrase pretty much sums up what we can all be proud of from our police and fire departments here in San Marcos. The women and men that have chosen to be here to protect and care for all of us are extraordinary folks. They sacrifice time with their loved ones, which we take for granted. They are an incredible example of teamwork, and they run toward danger because that's what they do. Yes, there are incidents and very unfortunate events that have occurred when the 0.1% of police officers in all of America engage in acts that tarnish the reputation of the department. These acts garner very loud protest, social media frenzy, and newscast, and take a heavy toll on the morale and the very soul of the other 99.9%. That's why I speak tonight to say thank you to the San Marcos Police Department and San Marcos Fire Department for your selfless service. I commend Director Staff, Police Chief Stan Standridge, and Fire Chief Les Stevens for their leadership, their commitment to their profession, their moral compass, and most of all, their passion for serving the San Marcos community. Council, I thank you for your continuing support for our police and fire departments. Finally, to those watching now or on video at a later time, I implore you to support the men and women of the police and fire departments. Encourage these folks when you see them and thank them for their selfless service. Thank you.
Next up, we have Annie Donovan.
Good evening. My name is Annie Donovan. I spoke a few weeks ago to let you know I have concerns about the SMART terminal and rezoning of additional land directly across the street from my home and the surrounding areas that encompass my neighbors and community. I first want to thank the mayor for directing staff to update the original SMART terminal FAQ from 2019. Thank you. I appreciate that the FAQ was re-added to the city's website and follows up on previous concerns on the SMART terminal from 2019. But I want to make you aware that it doesn't answer many of the questions that I have today in 2023. 2019 was 4 years ago. In 4 years, things have changed. The entire world shut down in 2020, and slowly over the past 3 years, all of us collectively have emerged into the new reality that is today. In the past 4 years, most San Marcos citizens forgot about the SMART terminal because when after Katera left, it never came to fruition in the original timeline. Every neighbor I have spoken with has told me that the SMART terminal was a dead project and are completely astounded to hear that there is a proposal to bring it back, double the size. I'm not the only one who has even more questions about the purported new, bigger, better, and heavier industrial SMART terminal and how it is going to benefit our community directly. Yes, I understand it will bring jobs, but what kind? Construction jobs are temporary, and from what I understand, Franklin Mountain doesn't have a plan about what they'd like to host outside of miles and miles and miles of freight cars that can be stacked upwards to 80 feet high. Other than the promise of a multi-year construction project that will disturb peace and quiet and the promise of train cars stacked so high they block my view of Alkek Library, I'm not convinced. The FAQ goes into some detail about how the developer could hypothetically build regardless if the annexation and rezoning falls through, how it's going to bring jobs and money and tax dollars to the city and its people. But it also talks about 2019 concerns. The folks today have 2023 concerns, not 2019. There are many items that my neighbors and I would like to more clarification on and hope that the council and city staff will humor us in updating the FAQ to address them. I will be emailing a list of staff to staff later this week and hope that it can be addressed in a timely manner. One of the biggest things that concerns me regarding this entire project is stated in the FAQ itself. It states, quote, "The applicant hopes to attract corporate tenants that will provide quality jobs, etc." But let me stop there. I looked up the definition of the word hope, and I want to share Merriam-Webster's definition. It states hope, verb, definition 1, to cherish a desire with anticipation, to want something to happen or be true. Definition 2, to desire with expectation of obtainment or fulfillment. Hope does not guarantee our community anything. Hope is a tactic I use to make the best of things when something terrible in my life happens, much like the fact that there's a proposal to rezone the land across the street from my house to heavy industrial. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have L. Cross.
Good evening, council members. My name is Elle Cross. Obviously, you've heard from me before about the need for police accountability in our community, and I'm grateful that we're in a position where we have the opportunity to do it right this time. Many of you have heard of Joshua Wright, a young father whose life was taken by a Hays County correctional officer. The correctional officer is still working in the Hays County Jail, and they refuse to release the video footage. While I understand that the jail is not within your jurisdiction, Joshua Wright was one of your constituents. His family and friends are your constituents, and they are looking for answers. I'm saddened to see that all but one of you have not issued public statements about this tragedy, and I want to ask now that you speak up for your constituent with the cultural power that you hold. I want to ask that you creatively look for solutions to this egregious lack of justice, and I ask that you understand that this case is not isolated, and lack of accountability in the justice system is silently taking lives and leaving victims and survivors in the dust. In 2023, we deserve to live in a world that is better than that. Take this information as you consider the Hartman reforms and as you stand for justice and help end the unregulated abuse of power at the hands of law enforcement. Without accountability, there is no limit, and these headlines simply won't stop. Before Mano Amiga was here, before people started showing up to tell you about these things, they were still happening. And now people are paying attention, and so I urge you to respond decisively. I understand this burden of renegotiation is a lot, and I know that you try to operate with compassion and the well-being of San Marcans in mind. But it is not enough as it is, and we cannot settle for policies that leave the least accountability for those with the most unregulated authority on violence in our community. Together, I hope that this body will do what must be done and will represent the needs of the people over the police union. You know, when one person comes up here and talks about 99% of the police officers being exemplary, I struggle to believe that, knowing how many disciplinary records are coming up and how many issues we're seeing and how many stories, frankly, we are hearing from our community members that have to be taken seriously. You know, I'd like to invite all of you to consider what a week in the jail looks like, what a week in solitary confinement looks like, where people are facing abuse and torture in breathtaking levels, and these are your constituents who are being sent there. So please take this seriously. Our people need their needs to be responded to.
Thank you. Next up, we have Samantha Benavides.
Good evening, Council. Sam Benavides. I want to begin this statement by commending Council members Elisa Garza, Saul Gonzalez, Jude Prather, and Shane Scott for standing on the side of justice and voting in favor of repealing the Meet and Confer Agreement. Our team found this decision incredibly shocking, as internally we were already preparing to gear up and get out the vote. However, we are thankful that both our organization and our city will not need to waste time, energy, and resources on this election, especially considering the fact that we collected 1,300 signatures pen to paper in just 4 weeks, and thus have already proven that there is strong public support for this issue. I will, however, say that I do not recall you all explicitly speaking to your support of our proposed reforms. I therefore ask that in the lead up to negotiations, you encourage city staff to fight for each of these common sense reforms that hold cops at the very least to the same standard as the rest of us. To further put into perspective how reasonable these reforms are, I will share a personal story. Last week, my father was arrested and taken to jail in Laredo, Texas. On top of all the collateral consequences this is bringing to my family, I can't help but think about the difference between the treatment he received versus the treatment our officers received. For example, these officers did not give him a 48-hour notice before questioning him. They did not present him with all the evidence they had against him. He did not have the opportunity to consult with others before providing his statement. Yet, if an officer in San Marcos is found to have engaged in misconduct, he would have been given these special protections. I wish we could say that the reforms we are demanding are ambitious, monumental, and revolutionary, but that's not where we are today. In this town, we are still fighting for the bare minimum, that cops be held to a standard equal to the rest of our community. I also see that being discussed is the official selection of Stephanie Reyes as our city manager, and I want to express my full support for this decision. Over the last several months, Stephanie has proven to be a brilliant leader, and I believe her when she says she truly loves this town. As you all prepare to re-enter negotiations, I want to remind you that our community is counting on you to ensure our interests are brought to the table, that our perspectives are considered, that you fight for those most vulnerable to police misconduct and abuse. Finally, I want to echo the calls from advocates for Joshua Wright. We are asking that you all speak out and condemn this injustice. We know that you do not directly control the jail, but neither do we, and we're still speaking out and demanding justice. You each should be using your platforms and influence as elected leaders of our community to speak out and demand accountability and justice for Joshua Wright. Thank you.
And then next, we have Lisa Marie Copoletta, who is online on Zoom.
Hey y'all, good evening. My name is Professor Lisa Marie Coppola. They call me LMC. I live at 1322 Belvin. I'm confused by the last speaker. Y'all wanted to take we to the vote to the public, but you didn't want to waste elections, energy, and resources on public safety matters. I think that's a pretty interesting performative contradiction, and I support those who wanted to take it to the voters. Additionally, I back the blue. I don't want to see drag races and violent citizens, and I'm very concerned that those who are so anti-cop are not calling out people who are conducting acts of violence, because who's the first one you're going to call when that sort of behavior happens in our community? Now, I used to run a newspaper called Stop Cop that was very anti-cop, so please don't pigeonhole me as some whatever someone's going to pigeonhole me, because I've been there, done that, and I think I've got a pretty good number on how things roll in San Marcos. Additionally, I want to say that I love what the pastor said, how he said it's either yes or no, and everything in the middle ground is not from you, Lord, amen. I was like, amen. Some of us do see the world in black and white. As far as the SMART terminal is concerned, if the land is going to be annexed, there should be an election first before the zoning, or else those individuals whose land you are annexing will not have any say, because it's basically, they're paupers, they're your paupers, right? They're feudal lords. I thought the project was dead too, and the developer lied on camera when he said that they were all talking, there was communication, when you heard speech after speech of individuals saying they had just heard about the project. I feel for these people. Think of the earth, the air, the fire, and the water, all that are completely toxed out as a result of the train derailment in Ohio, and the federal government is doing nothing. They're going over to Ukraine, opening up their pocketbooks, and they're leaving those people in squalor. And they're trying to tell them it's safe. In the article from February 21st, they said in 2021 there were 1,627 train accidents. On February 3rd, we had 3 accidents, one in Splendora, Texas. On February 3rd, there were 30 cars that derailed, and Norfolk Southern Line train derailed. And those were all with the hazardous chemicals. Additionally, there's another article that said in the United States, 54,539 train derailments happened from 1990 through 2021. What is going to be transported at the SMART terminal in terms of trains, planes, and trucks? Are those non-allowable uses in the code to be transported? How often? Will the MSDS material safety data sheets be available for the citizens, the city staff, elected officials, and the boards? Is there an evacuation plan? Can the emergency responders get there in time? Do we have the equipment and personnel if such an explosion takes place? What is the evacuation plan? And this not only is in terms of the SMART meter, but the SMART terminal, but also in terms of all the railroad crossings. Thank you for your time, and God bless San Marcos.
And next up, we have Amy Camp, who is also on Zoom.
That's correct.
Yes. Hi, sorry. My name is Amy Camp. I'm a resident of San Marcos, and I'm here to echo what Natalie and Elle and Sam all said about Joshua Wright. Like they said, of course, the Hays County Jail is not under the direct control of the San Marcos City Council, but not only is the jail located in San Marcos, but y'all do have, I believe, an intergovernmental agreement that allows the San Marcos Police Department to detain people who are arrested by them at the jail. So I do very much believe that this is a concern for the city of San Marcos, both for the constituents and for its elected officials. I would echo Elle in asking y'all to think creatively about how you can make sure that you use whatever power you have to work with the county and with the sheriff's office to prevent needless deaths and other forms of suffering from happening at the jail in the future. And I would also like to say that I know that some elected officials, including Councilmember Garza, have offered their condolences to the family of Joshua Wright. But to my knowledge, nobody else on the council has. And again, this is a human being. This is, someone who is a father, a son, a brother, who by many accounts He's a kind and gentle person, and I think that his family deserves the condolences of the elected officials who are in charge of the governance of both the city and the county. When a tragedy like this occurs, when it seems very clear that there's some failure at the governmental level to prevent it, I do believe that all of the elected officials and other governmental officials involved need to examine, what role did you play in this? What could you have done to prevent this preventable tragedy? So I hope that, now that we've come to speak to y'all, y'all will in the future think about what you can do to improve conditions at the jail, to prevent any other senseless, needless deaths of people who are in the custody of Hays County. And that's all I have to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And next we have Susan Peters, who's also online.
Yes. She is on.
She was there.
Hello?
She is on. There
Okay.
she is.
Hi, I don't know how to do the picture. I'm sorry. I'm not used to Zoom. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. My name's Susan Peters. I'm from Austin, Texas, more like Round Rock, Texas. I'm calling about the Pick a Pet store, the pet store that's in San Marcos Outlet Mall. I'm a member of Puppy Mill Awareness Day, and I know that a group has already spoke about this, but I just wanted to reiterate it. This is not a family-owned business. It's a business owned by people in California that are having these puppies shipped in to the state of Texas and Arizona, and they're coming as far as from Minnesota. They are coming from areas that have over 1,200 dogs. Which is not a reputable breeder, and there are several other places they are coming from all over the country. But my point is, our shelters are full, our rescues are tired, and they're bringing in unaltered puppies into the state of Texas, and we're already full, and we're trying to keep up. So I would like you to consider helping out with the ordinance of the HB 870, the state of Texas, that's outlawing puppy mill sales in pet stores. And we also do understand that if this is something where they're considered about the jobs of the people that are working there, we have proven that pet stores can make it without selling puppies. And there's several other things that Bailing Out Benji has sent you, and I just would like to say thank you for your time, and I hope you consider this. Thank you.
Thank you. And then finally, we have Anita Collins.
Hello, Mayor and Council. My name's Anita Collins. I live in the Hopkins Historic District, but I'm also I work for Hays County, and that's who I am here to speak on behalf of today. You may know that I've been the county judge's executive assistant for the last 4 years, and I am now the community liaison for the county judge's office. I'm also a member of the Main Street Board, the Downtown Association, the Council for the Indigenous and Tejano Community, the Historical Commission, and the Film Advisory Board. So as a community liaison, the judge formed this position to open the lines of communication between the county and the community. So I'm here to say hello as the new county liaison, and I have handed out one of the main phone calls we get in the office all the time is, who do we talk to about blah blah blah? And so I gave you guys a call sheet of all the different department heads. And so that way you have that in case one of your constituents calls and says, I have a county issue, who do I talk to? And then you'll have that right there in front of you so that you can refer them to the right department. Of course, you'll see that my name is at the very top and my phone number is right there. So if you ever have any other questions, you can call me about that. So that's all I have for today. I will be back whenever I have more information to send you, and feel free to give me a call if you have any other questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
And do we have anybody else signed up to speak?
That's it?
I signed up I came and signed up this morning.
This morning?
Yeah, well, I came and signed up here at
Okay, what is your name, sir?
Rocco Moses.
What was it again?
Rocco Moses.
Rocco
Yeah,
Moses.
and I came to,
I'm sorry, I don't have you on here. Let me.
gave it to the lady at this desk,
You did, okay. I'm sorry, I have to go speak to them, or if you just want to let them speak.
Let them speak.
I was gonna say let her go check.
My name's Rocco Moses. I'm coming in talking about the smart terminal that we have proposed out near Maxwell. And I'd like to frame it from the standpoint of realities. I think a lot of these projects get pitched a certain way, and you have to look at the realities of, what happens. You have a lot of the Woods, Capstone, the Lacima project. You have a lot of real recent incidents that have happened where, it gets pitched one way and then you end up with a different environmental reality. A point that I want to make in this project out here is I just had a water pipeline come across my property. I'm right there in Reedville. I'm right next to this property. The water table is physically at 10 to 14 feet. They hit water for our pipeline at 12 feet underground. And that Garney pipeline, they burned over 10 million gallons of water, dumping it out onto the ground. We called TCEQ, we called the state, we called every water governing body that there was in the state of Texas. All of them said, this is big business, we can't do anything. TCEQ literally said there's no point in us coming out. So with these projects like this, what I'm trying to throw into the conversation is the realities. I have a full presentation getting put together by a state licensed water engineer. This is going to be a catastrophe for the watershed. These people are coming for resources, and what they say is lip service. Because what they're coming for is the spatial position in between these cities, and they're coming for the water. Because they know that water table is that shallow. So all of that access to all of that water. So whenever they cut the pipe, whenever they cut into the water table with the pipeline, they dump 10 million gallons in 18 days. The whole purge 10 million gallons. That water, the water right there, the Yarrington Shelf that comes through that section, which is right there, is one of the most productive water shelves that's in this watershed. So again, I'm talking about realities. What is the legacy that we're going to leave here? Is it going to be of environmental accidents, which there's cities all over the country right now on fire right now because municipalities didn't heed these warnings, and councils that were just like this didn't say, is there a way to, I know that the wheels of progress come, and I know that a lot of times you can't stop these people because these developers have a methodology and they have a playbook. They've done this. They grind people out. But I'm saying that there is much more.
Your time is up, sir. Thank you.
And we'll move on to the consent agenda.
We'll move on to the consent agenda. Does anybody have any items to pull? I'm seeking a motion.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Mayor Houston. Second by Mr. Mendoza. Any discussion? Let's have a roll call.
Okay. Mr. Scott.
Aye.
Mr. Gleason.
Aye.
Mayor Houston.
Aye.
Ms. Garza. Mr. Gonzalez. Ms. Mendoza. And Mr. Prather.
Okay. And we will move on to our public hearing, item 16.
I didn't say I, but we can imagine that I said I.
Thought you did too.
Sorry. All right, receive a staff presentation, hold a public hearing to receive comments for or against ordinance 2023-21 approving the abandonment of 0.3269 acres, 14,240 square feet of the public right-of-way known as Nash Lane in final plat of Lot 1, Nashville subdivision, located in the vicinity of the Interstate 35 West Frontage Road south of Yorrington Road and north of Chuck Nash Loop, subject to replacement of right-of-way being dedicated to the city, authorize the city manager or her designee to execute the quitclaim deed on behalf of the city, including procedural provisions, and provide an effective date, and consider approval of ordinance 2023-21 on the first of two readings.
Ms. Hernandez.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Amanda Hernandez, Interim Director, Planning and Development Services. The subject property is approximately 14,000 square feet, and it's an unimproved right-of-way located behind the Nash dealership. Next slide. This aerial shows more context of the surrounding area, including Yarrington Road, which is to the right of the image, and Riverwalk Drive, which is on the left. Next slide. City staff is currently reviewing a preliminary plat in the area, which is proposing new roads, which are indicated on this graphic in the black. And you can see that little red section that we were looking at previously is just a little bit off of the alignment of the proposed Riverwalk Drive. Next slide. Here is a zoomed-in image of those two. The existing right-of-way being considered in this proposal was dedicated in 2004 with a plat, and it is just east of the proposed alignment as we saw in the previous image, and therefore the applicant is requesting to abandon this portion of the right-of-way. Next slide. In a typical abandonment process, when the abandoned land will return to an adjacent owner, the city would request an appraisal and there would be a purchase. The owner would purchase that land from us. In this case, however, we know that that new right-of-way is coming, and that new right-of-way will actually be larger than the right-of-way that we are proposing to abandon. So therefore, staff is recommending approval of the request as a swap of land versus a land purchase. The Planning Commission unanimously recommended approval of the request, and that concludes my presentation.
And I shall open up the public hearing. Is there anyone here signed up to speak?
Ms. Capoletto.
Oh, but they don't need to be signed up to speak if they're in.
Yeah, is the applicant here too? Does the applicant wish to speak?
Yeah, we can stop, to speak, staff did a great job of presenting.
Okay. And then Ms. Copoletta is signed up?
She's online.
Did anybody else want to go first?
I think the floor is yours, Ms. Copoletta.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Gleason. Good evening. My name is Professor Lisa Marie Coppola. They call me LMC, and I live at 1322 Belvin. I've been going to these meetings since I was 19 years old. I'm like 54 or something. I was born in 68, and I'm completely confused what is going on. If I'm confused, I'm sure everybody else at home is confused. And I have no idea what this means. I have no idea what this means, and I think that's troubling that there isn't more explanation. Now, I want to say, I want to use my time to say I really appreciate the hard work of Ms. Hernandez, as well as Andrea. I appreciate the work of Mr. Carr, Shannon O'Brien, and Jeff Quimby. I appreciate the hard work of our police chief, as well as Chase Stabb, Joe, and Lori Roundabout Moyer. They've been really good to me. And finally, I want to congratulate Ms. Reyes. I'm very glad to see that we're finally allowing people with a proven track record. Some of the people, and I know we have a new policy, there are a couple of people who've been promoted recently, and I think it's truly by attrition. I don't think they're ethical, and you guys can probably deduce those who bullied me and did that to my yard. But I truly feel under the leadership of Ms. Reyes and Ms. Moyer and Mr. Stapp, some of that unsavory, diabolical behavior that occurred to my trees is now being rectified. I'm looking forward to them going out and inspecting my tree, but I just want to congratulate Ms. Reyes, and I want to thank Ms. Hernandez for all of her patience working with me and some of us who've had some concerns about some of the situations going on. And I also want to congratulate Ms. Hernandez. I know it's antithetical to the first part of my speech. Her report outs have been very robust to you guys. That was not the case with Ms. Mattingly back in the day. She's been truly transparent with what has occurred in these other meetings. I am here today. Y'all, you'll know I'm taking Morse code classes, right? I got these gorgeous keys behind me, and I stuck around because I thought it was for that development. So I just hope that you guys, maybe you've defeated it, I'm totally confused, but if that thing comes up, that Chuck Nash area, please consider the flooding and the traffic. And the final thing I want to say is when we talk about traffic, it's not just, it's so aggravating, I'm in traffic. It's like we live in a society where people will literally run a light and just laugh at you as they do it. And that happened to me 3 cars in a row trying to get home. I'm stuffed, y'all, from Fat Tuesday. And I just, it's like, you think about all the people, how they acted when toilet paper was, had a situation with the pandemic. How are people going to act if we have societal breakdown? And I would encourage the public to watch the global news. Something you don't know, Joe Public, that I am an expert in international military strategy. That was my expertise as a young kid. Is start getting prepared. Because shit may be hitting the fan soon. Thank you for your time, and God bless San Marcos.
Thank you. And do we have anybody else speak? I will close the public hearing and confer a motion.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Mayor Houston. A second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Prather. Any discussion? Let's have a roll call.
Mr. Gleason.
Aye.
Mayor Houston.
Aye.
Ms. Garza.
Sure.
And Mr. Mendoza.
Aye.
Mr. Prather. And Mr. Scott.
Aye.
All right. And we are on to item 17.
Consider approval of ordinance 2023-22 on the first of 2 readings, reducing the speed limit on State Highway 123 from 60 miles per hour to 55 miles per hour, authorizing the installation of signs and traffic control devices reflecting the new speed limits, directing that the traffic register maintained under Section 82.067 of the San Marcos City Code be amended to reflect the new speed limits and penalties to be applied accordingly, and including procedural provisions.
Mr. Avia.
I'll be here just for questions.
Good evening, council members. Sabas Avila, Director of Public Works. This item does not have a presentation. However, I'm available for any questions you might have.
Okay.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Mayor Houston. Second by Councilmember Mendoza. Is there any discussion? I think all of us are going to be glad to see this. I think the community will too. So, and no discussion, let's have a roll call.
Mayor Houston.
Aye.
Ms. Garza.
Aye.
Mr. Mendoza.
Aye.
Mr. Prather. Aye. Mr. Scott.
Aye.
And Mr. Gleason.
Aye. And we are on to 18.
Consider approval of ordinance 2023 on the first of 2 readings, amending the city's 2022-2023 fiscal year budget to allocate up to $45,000 from the state seed asset funds to provide funding for the construction of a metal awning for police vehicle protection and repair, and provide an effective date.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Mayor Houston. A second?
Second.
Second from Councilmember Prather. Any discussion?
No.
Okay, let's have a roll call.
Okay. Ms. Garza.
Yeah, I guess.
And Mr. Mendoza.
Aye.
Mr. Prather.
Aye.
Mr. Scott.
Aye.
Mr. Gleason.
Aye.
And Mayor Houston.
Aye.
Number 19.
Wait.
Con-
I missed one.
Needs to announce the result of the vote.
Oh, yeah,
The motion passes 6-0.
sorry.
You're
Being
like,
quick on
let's go.
Snap, snap.
Yeah, we're ready.
Item number 19.
All right. Consider approval of resolution 2023-43R, approving award of a contract to Cedar Hill Construction to the Briarwood Water Line Improvement Project, including addictive and alternative, in the amount of $1,346,381, authorizing the city manager or her designee to execute the contract on behalf of the city and declare an effective date.
And do we have a presentation on this one?
We do not have a presentation, but Mr. Condor is online in case there are any questions.
I'll be seeking a motion.
I thought what was in the packet was complete. I'm convinced. I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion to approve by Mayor Houston and a second by Councilmember Scott. Any discussion?
And for our viewing public, the price tag associated with this water line, that neighborhood took substantial, or that street took substantial damage during the 2015 floods.
Anything else? Let's have a roll call.
Okay. Mr. Mendoza.
Aye.
Mr. Prather.
Aye.
Mr. Scott.
Aye.
Mr. Gleason.
Aye.
Mayor Houston.
Aye.
Ms. Garza.
Yes.
Okay, the motion passes 6-0.
And we're on to 20.
Consider approval of Resolution 2023-44R, approving award of a contract to DNS Concrete Contractors LLC for the Midtown Drainage Improvements Phase 1A project, including adductive alternative 2 in the amount of $2,182,211. Authorize the city manager or designee to execute the contract on behalf of the city and declare an effective date.
Motion to approve.
We have a motion approved by Councilmember Scott. Do we have a second? I'll second this one. Any discussion on this one? I'll just comment that this is another one where I think this is for mitigation funds, if I remember correctly. And that this is just another kind of a flood improvement project, especially on the east side of town. So glad to see it. And what was in the packet was pretty extensive too. Any other comments? Let's have a roll call.
Okay, Mr. Prather.
Aye.
Mr. Scott.
Aye.
Mr. Gleason.
Aye.
Mayor Houston.
Aye.
Ms. Garza.
Aye.
And Mr. Mendoza.
Aye.
Okay, the motion passes 6-0.
And we're on to 21.
Consider approval of Resolution 2023-45R, approving the appointment of Stephanie L. Reyes as city manager and declare an effective date.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve. First, second.
That's why I'm here.
I'm giving the motion to approve to Mayor Houston,
Second.
and I'll give the second to Councilmember Scott. Mayor,
Thank you. I think I've known her the longest.
it's all, the floor is yours, Mayor.
Since I've known her since she was in college and a student worker, and I have always admired Stephanie. I knew her through Leadership San Marcos, through her year as president of Leadership San Marcos, since she was working here at the city, in the city manager's office, when I was on the council from 96 to 02. I have always found her to be energetic, a hard worker, honest, and she's open. You can talk to her, she listens, she explains things. I think she's absolutely wonderful, and I'm so pleased that you will be our city manager and that you agreed to do this. Thank you, my dear.
We love you.
Yes, ma'am.
We do love you.
Well, don't clap yet. We haven't done the roll call yet. Let's clap after the roll call.
Oh, okay, okay,
So,
okay.
Any other comments before we take this vote? I'll just throw out there too. I'm super excited. I think we all are.
Very
And
proud.
thank you for stepping up to take this, and you're going to do a fantastic job, and I know the community's super excited about it, and thank you very much.
Muchísimas gracias de todo corazón, Stephanie.
I was going to say the city of San Marcos is in good hands.
Yes.
Let's have a roll call.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Scott.
Aye.
Mr. Gleason.
Aye.
Mayor Houston.
Aye.
Ms. Garza.
Absolutely.
Mr. Mendoza.
Without question, yes.
Awesome. And Mr. Prather.
Best vote, yes.
Motion passes 6-0.
Now.
Yo bien chillona. Nobody cried. I was about to cry.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. It means a lot to me, and I'm honored to be able to take on this role in this community that I love so much. And it's been special to me to be in the organization the way that I have, and to grow with the organization, and to just, to my family who's in the audience here with me tonight. I'm going to keep a straight face and not look at y'all so that I don't get emotional, but I can't do what I do without them and their support and their love, and they support me 100% in what I do, and also to the team. I always say I don't do anything by myself, and I have an amazing group that I get to work with, and then all of you. I really appreciate the support that you've given us during this time and always, and I just really look forward to our future and anything I can do to help to make San Marcos, even better place. Definitely heavily invested and want to do a good job. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so we're on to item number 22.
Receive a staff presentation, consider approval of Resolution 2023-46R, approving substantial amendment number 2 to the Community Development Block Grant Mitigation, CDBG-MIT, Action Plan designating one new project and reallocating project funding, authorizing the city manager to execute any documents necessary to implement this amendment and declare an effective date.
Ms. Hernandez?
Amanda Hernandez, Interim Director of Planning and Development Services. Hayden, if you could go to the slide that says public review process. I'm not going to give the entire presentation because City Council heard this presentation on January 3rd during a public hearing. Wanted to speak to one of the comments that we received during that public hearing which was that there has been no outreach to this neighborhood, and I just want to assure the council that there has been a lot of outreach in this neighborhood. We've gone to the neighborhood, we've piggybacked on other meetings and other events that are happening, making sure that people know what's coming and that we are trying to improve that neighborhood and help mitigate some of that flooding that they have seen in the past. The proposed amendment has been online for about a month, and we've received no comments on the online version. The MIT Advisory Committee held their required public hearing, and there were no speakers. So today we're seeking your approval in order to move this amendment forward, and that concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Ms. Hernandez. And I'm seeking a motion.
So moved.
A motion to approve by Councilmember Scott. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Mayor Houston. Do we have any discussions on this one? So another one, I'll throw out a thank you to Ms. Hernandez. I know this is a long, long process, and I think we're getting close here. I can feel an end coming, so thank you. Anything else? Let's have a roll call.
Okay, Mr. Gleason.
Aye.
Mayor Houston.
Aye.
Ms. Garza.
Aye.
Mr. Mendoza.
Aye.
Mr. Prather. Aye. And Mr. Scott.
Aye.
The motion passes 6-0.
We're on to number 23.
Consider approval by motion of the council committee rules of procedure and provide direction to the city manager.
I will make a motion on this one, so we can get on the table.
Yep.
Second.
Motion by Mayor Houston to approve. The second, is that you, Mr. Scott?
Yeah.
Thank you. And we do have it, it's the motion, it's on the floor.
And then I also have some amendments that I would like to propose. And if y'all looked at the message board, y'all would have seen these.
Yep.
If you will look at, but it's not in your packet because these are my amendments, but under Article 2 membership, and y'all can vote on these or vote them down. As I tell people, I have been outvoted in public and on television before. So one of them, under Article 2 membership, B, a city council member may serve the duration of their term on council or until resignation. I have added or misses 2 meetings in a row. At such time, the council member will be removed from their service on a committee. We have rules for our boards and commissions, et cetera, that if you're not showing up, you're not serving. So I thought we would put this in here. You can make it 3 meetings if you want, doesn't matter. But my motion is if you miss 2 meetings, then you will be deemed resigned from the committee.
Not from the city council.
No, just from that council committee.
I'll second that. Is there any discussion on the amendment?
Was that an amendment or that was the?
That was an
That's it.
amendment.
It's an amendment to the.
2 in a row.
No more than, can't miss more than 2 in a row of any council committee.
Often what happens is if a couple of people can't go, we just reschedule. Or sometimes even if one can't go, we reschedule. So
Yeah.
I don't know that this has ever happened, but
And
Just in
I'll
case.
point out too, this is exactly the same rules that we have in place for our boards and commissions across all boards, I think, isn't it correct?
It's 3
No.
consecutive
Not quite, it's a little more
meetings.
stringent?
it's a little more stringent for boards and committees.
Okay.
No,
It's 3 consecutive
less.
meetings.
3.
It's 3, okay, thank you for clarifying.
What, I have something to consider, Mayor.
Mm-hmm.
My broke back, your broke shoulder, sometimes there's situations that could cause people to miss 2 in a row. How do we mitigate
In
that?
most cases like that, we've been rescheduling the committee rather than having a committee of one person.
Well, you see what I'm saying, though?
Mhm.
Not sure there's a clear answer for it.
I can support this just because I do believe this isn't, most of the time, this doesn't take up a ton of staff's time. This is really about the council committee members, and anyone I've been on, if I haven't been able to make it, we've been able to reschedule them. And my concern is if we don't put something like this in there, there are some of these committees that we get on where we have a development agreement or something going on, and if you miss 2 in a row, you are way behind on the discussions. And it's hard to get caught back up with the things, and it can delay things quite a bit. So, and this is something we could change in the future too, Councilmember Scott, that if it came up. So I think I'm okay with this. Any other discussion on the motion to amend? All right, let's have a roll call.
All right, Mayor Houston.
Aye.
Ms. Garza.
No.
Mr. Mendoza.
Aye.
Mr. Prather.
Aye.
Mr. Scott.
Aye.
And Mr. Gleason.
Aye.
Okay, the motion passes 5-1.
Okay, and under Article 5, agendas, we put in here a while back, all agenda items must be aligned with the committee's stated purpose, but we didn't say who was responsible for that. And so my motion is to add, as determined by the staff liaison and the committee chair.
I'll second that motion. Any discussion on the motion to amend the stated purpose?
I think it's unnecessary. I think the beauty of committees is that it's a space to kind of unpack or visit ideas that maybe unique council members bring to the table. I have seen in the past where there appears to be some sort of disconnect, and then we hear about it, and it makes sense once it's discussed. So I'm a no on that. Additionally, I think that just given that hopefully we start getting more like lay people to serve in office, if they have ideas that they want to flesh out along their peers and maybe want their help kind of to determine like if it aligns with the overall purpose, I think that we should give that space. I don't know. I think it's unnecessary. And there could be, there's a lot of different interpretations regarding what the committee's stated purposes are.
So would you be recommending dropping A entirely?
Yeah, I think, well, no, I think that what we have done historically is given the rationale that makes sense to us, and I feel like for the most part, we give each other grace and do a trust fall that when they start talking during the committee that it's going to make sense. So
I think when those generally come up, though, isn't that when we get to the last item on the agenda and say the future items, and someone suggests something and we talk about it then? And like you say, sometimes it's not immediately obvious, the relevance, but after we chat about it, it becomes relevant. And so that's when a lot of those conversations happen. And then it's been determined, and then it shows up on the next agenda.
I don't know. I think I just can see, y'all, we've been beefing about these committee rules, like let's just keep it 100, since my term started. And so I think that's putting way too much power in the committee chair. So that's where I stand on that.
But this isn't to undo being able to bring it up at future items and having a discussion. If the committee says yes, boom, it's done. It's on the next agenda. So I'm not meaning to undo that.
I think this just kind of codifies the verbiage a little bit and kind of clarifies it.
Well, we had the rule, we just didn't say who was responsible
Yeah,
for
that's what I mean.
determining that.
I didn't see a whole lot of change there.
I just really want us to think about the conversation, and I know two of our peers were not privy to it, but in 2021, there was a very lengthy conversation regarding specifically different council members and different staff's interpretation of the purpose of the committees. And I think putting the overall responsibility or the power in two individuals like that is just going to have us reproduce the same beef that we've been having for 3 years.
Any other discussion on the motion to amend?
I get your point now.
And it's up, the amendment
what's
is
in
up on the
blue.
screen. If we could get, is Mr. Meagle back there and zoom in on that so we could read that a little better?
We had the rule, all agendas must be aligned with the committee's stated purpose. We didn't say who was responsible for that. And so I was suggesting that it be the staff liaison and the committee chair. However, what has often happened is that when we get to the bottom of an agenda and it says future items, that somebody will suggest something. And like Ms. Garza said, sometimes it's not immediately obvious that it is relevant to that committee, but upon further conversation, we decide it is. and it goes on the next agenda. So that has happened, more than once.
Right, so I just don't understand then why this is necessary if what we have been practicing without having to have the blessing of the staff liaison and the committee chair has been working.
Sometimes something will come up and they want to put it on the next agenda because of deadlines or to be timely. Anyway,
I think if I'm getting it right, you're taking the power away from the position of a council member or a mayor and letting the staff person have it?
no, it's staff liaison and the chair, the council committee chair. Unless I'm the committee chair, I would have no power or influence over it, especially if I'm not even on the committee. So anyway, that's my motion to amend. Folks, again, been outvoted in public and on television before.
All right, no more comments. Let's have a roll call vote on the motion to amend.
Ms. Garza.
No.
Mr. Mendoza.
Aye.
Mr. Prather.
Aye.
Mr. Scott.
Aye.
And Mr. Gleason.
Aye.
And Mayor Houston.
Aye.
Okay, the motion passes 5-1.
Any other amendments for discussion before
I
we vote on
have-
the main motion?
I do have one, and that is in the chart. I had called the different meetings meeting type, and unfortunately elsewhere I had said meeting format. We need to be consistent, so I'm just saying change from format to type so it matches the chart. And that's my motion.
Okay, I'll second that.
I have oh, never mind, sorry, we'll finish this first.
Any discussion on this motion to amend? Let's have a roll call.
Okay. Mr. Mendoza.
Aye.
Mr. Prather. Aye. Mr. Scott.
Aye.
Mr. Gleason.
Aye.
Mayor Houston.
Aye.
And Ms. Garza.
Aye.
Okay, the motion passes 5-0.
I have no more amendments, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, Ms. Garza, do you have something?
I have a question, Mayor, since you're the one who put this together. What is your conceptualization of subject matter experts?
That is on the different committees that I have been on. I've only been on the homelessness committee since January. But in that particular case, I would think that the chair of the Homeless Coalition, a director or someone who is at a facility that provides services to the homeless, those would be two. With our Animal Services Committee, the animal advocates have provided expert advice before on fostering and those kinds of things that I don't know a whole lot about. So,
Who determines who is a subject matter expert?
I think I would leave that up to the staff liaison in the chair.
Okay, I just want the record to reflect that I find the entire packet fundamentally problematic. I think it's restrictive and unnecessary, and quite frankly, I have expressed my frustrations over this for the past 3 years on multiple occasions. These rules are not, they're not applied across the board, and we got the receipts, okay? So my other question is then who is responsible for ensuring that these committee rules, if approved, are applied across the board?
Well, I would think it would be the chair of the committee
And the staff liaison.
and the staff liaison, yeah.
So historically, as they have not been applied across the board, where is there some sort of roadmap or guide that shows how to proceed from there? Because historically, it's just business as usual. We just kind of ignore the blatant not following of the committee rules.
Who's going to enforce them? Is that what you're looking at?
I don't know. This
Well,
isn't my...
These amendments, which you and I discussed, the ones in red that you said you liked at the time we discussed them, not the ones in blue, because we didn't talk about those, this chart was to try to make it clear the different types of meetings And we've had in the rules for quite some time, at the end of the meeting, to determine what the format of the next meeting would be. But it wasn't on the agenda, and that's one of the amendments here, is to actually say on the agenda, future meeting items and the format for the next meeting. There's a committee that you and I were on, and I kept reminding, we need to say what we want the next format to be, and the chair didn't always do that. So we've had some things in place that things could have happened the way you wanted to, but sometimes it was by omission, sometimes it was by choice.
I'm not going to hold my breath that any of these are going to be applied across the board, but I'm clearly going to be outvoted on this, so we can just drop it.
Is it a good goal? The chart was to help make things more clear.
And that's that chart that's up there that,
Well, you can only see the front part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
was
the
looking.
definitions of the meetings are there, and then this is the
yeah,
rest of it.
thank you, Mr. Meagle. Okay, any other amendments or discussion on the main motion as amended?
What happened to you use the little push button things?
We can only do that when we're Zooming.
Oh.
Okay, let's vote on the main motion as amended.
All right, Mr. Prather,
Aye.
Mr. Scott,
No.
Mr. Gleason.
Aye.
Mayor Houston,
Aye.
Ms. Garza,
No.
and Mr. Gonzalez, he's absent, and Mr. Mendoza.
Aye.
Okay, the motion passes 4-2.
Okay, and
Okay.
we're on to item 24.
Okay, whole discussion regarding Cemetery Commission Recommendation Resolution 2022-02RR, amending Chapter 22, Cemeteries of the Code of Ordinances and amendments to the fee schedule to include pricing for the newly installed columbarium and ossuary, and provide direction to the city manager.
Ms. Case, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Jamie Lee Case, Director of Parks and Recreation. This evening, I just wanted to bring the most recent Cemetery Commission recommendation regarding some additional code amendments, as well as presenting the newly installed columbarium and ossuary pricing that the board has presented. The text amendments are just some additional updates to the ordinance. There are a couple of provisions in there that are out of date. The board did discuss it at length and felt that these recommendations are best suited for our day and time right now, and will provide the ability for one specific area of the cemetery to actually place markers that they haven't been allowed in the past. Additionally, in regards to our columbarium and ossuary pricing, I just wanted to explain that a little bit more. We did provide that as an exhibit within your packet. So you'll see that there are several different tiers mentioned, and I just wanted to review exactly what that means. So there are a total of 7 rows within the columbarium. That tier 1 consists of what we call row 3, 4, and 5. Those are going to be more at your eye level. So those are considered more of your premium spots, because as you walk up, those are going to be most easily viewed by anyone coming into the cemetery. And so there are 72 niches located within that tier 1. Then within tier 2, that is rows 2 and 6. And there are 48 niches located within tier 2. Tier 3 are rows 1 and row 7. That is the very top row and the very bottom row. So those are, not as easily seen as at eye level. There's 48 niches there. Then we also have the ossuary, which is more of our communal resting place for cremains. And there we can reasonably fit about 220, give or take, cremains within the ossuary. So we can fit 2 urns per niche, and the total cremains that we would be able to place is around 336. And if, I'm open to any additional questions that the council may have.
And Ms. Case, could you, for the public's sake, could you maybe describe an ossuary a little bit?
Yes, sir. So the ossuary is, like I said, a communal resting place where the cremains would be placed into essentially a large tubular receptacle in the center of the columbarium. We have a plaque where folks would be able to memorialize their loved one listed that has, I guess, been laid to rest there in the ossuary. So we will have them notated on a large plaque. Whereas with the columbarium, each individual niche would have those that are interned there be engraved on the outside of that individual niche.
Okay, thank you for the explanation.
Yes, sir.
And council, remind everybody, this is a discussion item. It's not an action item. And so does anybody have any questions?
I suggest we move forward.
Let's move forward. Do we have consensus to move forward? And if I am going to remember correctly, it is going to take the mayor or 2 council members to officially, no?
No,
Staff
we're
can do
doing
this?
it right now.
Okay. Oh, okay, all right.
Yes, sir. I'll bring back an ordinance in which for the council to consider these amendments as being proposed, as well as setting this pricing officially.
Thank you for the clarification, Ms. Case. And so I think we have consensus to move forward. Is that correct, everybody?
Yes, sir.
All right. Thank you very much, Ms. Case.
Thank you all very much.
And we are on to item number 25.
Hold discussion regarding the boards and commission process and provide direction to staff.
Oh, sorry. I need a motion to postpone this again.
Okay. I'll second that, just to get it on the floor.
Yes.
To win, do you have a date certain, Ms. Garza?
What was it, March something?
You can say first or second meeting in March if you want.
Whichever one's lighter, first or second meeting in March. So I had asked for it to be moved again. I was uncertain whether I was going to make it today, but also, on a happier note, because several of our neighbors, some who are currently on boards, some who have been in the past, volunteered to put together some thoughts, ideas, and look at other best practices. So I want to incorporate that and share that with you all. So, which is really helpful to me. But yeah, whichever one is
Staff, do you have a date?
When can that be put together?
What's today?
Because if you want it the first meeting in March, it'd have to be done in a week. Or by Monday, Ms. Trevino, was that?
The second meeting probably because they work, or 2 of them work. So.
March 21st?
Yeah.
How would this affect the planning and zoning that we're going to be losing?
This is future process.
Oh, okay, just.
Oh,
so-
yeah.
Oh, okay.
These are just like ideas to consider for the future.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that. Thank you
No,
very
for
much.
sure.
Any other discussion on the motion to postpone until March 21st? And this is actually a discussion anyway.
Right.
We didn't even need a formal motion, I don't think. It's a dis-
Probably not.
It was a discussion
Now
only,
that
but it's
you
nice to
mention
have a
it.
date, so. So we'll, staff, do they need a formal acknowledgement of putting this on the 21st?
It's already been.
Formal
added.
request,
It's a formal.
or can staff do it?
Can we just say March 21st?
Okay,
We're
all right.
good for that
That'll-
discussion?
I had the note. Mhm.
That'll work.
Okay, I won't let them know.
Okay, so we are on to item number 26.
Executive session in accordance with the following: A, Section 551.074 of the Texas Government Code, Personnel Matters, to deliberate the duties of the city manager related to the upcoming meet and confer negotiations with the San Marcos Police Officer Association, and Section 551.071, consultation with the city's attorney regarding legal matters related to the upcoming meet and confer negotiations. B, Section 551.074 of the Texas Government Code, Personnel Matters, to hold discussion regarding the city attorney position.
Seeking a motion?
So moved.
Second.
A motion to go in executive session from Councilmember Scott and a second by Councilmember Prather. Any discussion? Let's have a roll call.
Okay, Mr. Scott.
Aye.
Mr. Gleason.
Aye.
Mayor Houston.
Aye.
Ms. Garza.
Aye.
Mr. Mendoza.
Aye.
And Mr. Prather.
And we are going to executive session at 7:17, and we'll give everybody 10 minutes. It's 7:25. Be in the conference room. And we were discussing items
Mr. Gleason?
The B.
Can I read number 27?
Yeah. Let her read item 26.
We were on,
27.
26.
huh?
Let her read item 26.
Oh, yes, read item 26. I was trying to figure the number out.
I'm going to read number 27. Consider action by motion or provide directions to staff regarding the following executive session item held during the work session and/or regular meeting. Executive session in accordance with the following: A, Section 551.07 for the Texas Government Code, personal matters to deliberate the duties of the city manager related to the upcoming meet and confer negotiations with the San Marcos Police Officers Association, and Section 551.071, consultation with the city's attorney regarding the legal matters related to the upcoming meet and confer negotiations. B, Section 551.07 for the Texas Government Code, personnel matters to hold discussion regarding the city attorney position.
And we met and discussed item A and gave direction to staff. And we met on item B and gave direction to staff. And that brings us to
Q&A.
questions and answers of the press and public. Everybody signed up?
I don't see Ms. Capoletta anymore, so.
Ms. Coppola?
She was the only one, but I don't see her
Okay.
on Zoom.
Else? And
People that-
motion to adjourn? A motion by Councilmember Mendoza. Ms. Garza was the motion, Mr. Mendoza was the second. And let's have a roll call.
Second, Mr. Gleason.
Aye.
Mayor Houston.
Aye.
Ms. Garza.
Aye.
Mr. Mendoza.
Aye.
Mr. Prather. And Mr. Scott.
Aye.
Aye, and we are adjourned at 7:45, people.